Welcome to Next to Madison, a podcast to help you live your best life. Welcome back to another fun episode of Next to Madison. I'm your host, Madison Malloy, and on this episode, we are talking about fear. We are breaking down the fear, we are helping identify the fear, and we are getting through the fear, and we're doing it with my guest, who is an author, a musician, and a comedian. I met her doing comedy. We're both performing. We talk about that story. Big show out in Columbus, Ohio. And it is so fun to have her back as a personal development writer. And she has broken through fear herself and has trained and coached thousands of people doing it. So she is credible and somebody you want to listen to. This is a very fun episode. We talk about the comedy, we talk about farting, we talk about bears, we talk about everything. And most importantly, we talk about fears, how to identify them, and how to break free from them. Fear is the number one thing that is controlling your life and preventing you from accomplishing and reaching everything and goal you want in your life. So once we break past that, life becomes lighter, easier, and more fun. But I'm going to stop talking because my guest is full of amazing information. So we'll be right back on this episode of Next to Madison with our guest. It's your host, Madison Malloy, and I have exciting news. My new product is now available on Amazon called Color Your Way to Abundance, a 21-day manifestation guide for wealth, health, and love. This unique coloring journal will help you manifest by coloring in the affirmations while you continue to repeat them. This will help activate these affirmations so they become a reality. Grab your copy today and relax, color, and start manifesting. Okay, welcome back. We are with our guest. She is the amazing comedian, she's a musician, and now she's adding author to her resume, and she is here to talk all about her new book on fear, which is one of my favorite topics because I think it is the most beneficial for all of us to get out of our own way and stop self-sabotaging. So with that being said, Bethany Dwyer, welcome to the show, my dear.
Hi, thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, I'm excited to have you. So, little fun fact, you guys. Bethany and I, she's an LA comic. I was a New York comic. And we both got booked on this big music festival called Rock on the Range in Columbus, Ohio in like May of 2016. And she was one of the comedians that did a lot of these music festivals will have these comedy stages. And she was one of the only other females that was with me on this festival. And God, we had, what did we have? Red Hot Chili Peppers, Five Finger Death Punch, Rob Zombie.
Yep.
Like it was an unbelievable, there was like 30,000 people.
Yeah.
That were at this festival. And what was so great was they flew us out, put us up in a nice hotel. We had backstage, full access, all the food. I didn't realize that rockers, because they rock so hard, they need to eat really healthy. So it was like the freshest food and like all the green juices. Do you remember all that?
I do. I love that you think because they're healthy. I think it's just because they're like bratty. Like, I want this. I want
I
that.
just thought because they did so many drugs, they got to clean it up. You know what I mean? These were some old rockers. Rob Zombie is not exactly a young chicken.
He is. He's, I think, even a vegan. I know he's vegetarian,
Yes.
so he might be vegan. But yeah, a lot of the older rockers, for sure, you're right, because I forget what bands were on that show. But yeah, a lot of them too, I think, just will eat whatever's there, and then whoever's the top ranking musician gets to say what the food is. Yeah, that was a spread. We were well taken care of. I liked it.
Yeah, it was amazing. It was definitely an experience. I remember like I have pictures with like some of the backup singers for Rob Zombie, and they look scary with all that makeup and stuff.
Yeah,
But yeah, it was
I love
wild.
Rob. Yeah.
Yeah,
I just saw him for Halloween last year, and he was great.
Oh, you did? Oh, nice. I didn't know
Yeah.
he's still performing because that was like not, oh my God, was that 9 years? That was 9 years ago.
I am so glad you knew the date because I'm like, I don't freaking remember anything at all.
It feels like yesterday.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Because I remember I had just gone through what now I can say was it was a horrible breakup. Just my heart was shattered into pieces. I mean, it took me really almost 2 years to fully get over that, but that was a life-changing event for the better. It was
Nice.
such a positive outcome, but I remember going and having so much fun, but God, in the inside, I was just dying
Oh,
and
I wish
just,
I'd known that.
oh, I was like so miserable. And I was like, maybe I'll get famous and then he'll love me. Now I'm like, beat it, nerd. You're
Thank
out of
God.
here.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You know how
right.
you, their rejection is your protection at all times.
And it was the life-changing, catalyst. So let's talk about like the comedy. How did you get into the comedy and like what were some of the struggles that you found as a comedian? Because I think that people don't talk about this enough.
Yeah. Well, I always knew I wanted to be a stand-up. That
Yeah.
was something I've known since I was little. My whole family was like, she's going to be a stand-up comic. She's going to be on SNL, and all of, what you hear when you're little. And it really was something I knew I was going to do. I
Yeah.
remember seeing certain comics growing up. When I was little, I remember watching my mom laugh to Roseanne and just being like, I want to make my mom laugh like that. Like I want to be able to make
Yeah.
people laugh. So I think, and probably part of my people pleasing came out in that way, right? I just want to make everyone feel better and everything seem okay. And I think comedy really lends itself to that. And then also, I just always had a very unfiltered way about me. And comedy also is the vehicle for that. I feel like you get to say whatever you want. And you go, well, I'm a comic, so it's
Yeah.
fine. And
Yes.
also, yeah, and also like my heart is so into comedy. Like I just love everything about it. I love the art of it. I love making it. I love writing it for other people. I love everything about comedy, and then performing obviously is another level. But
Yeah.
the struggles, I would say, mainly, especially being here in LA, is the saturation. It's just unbelievable how many people here are trying to be stand-up comics. And I think in LA, as much art that's made here, the artist is actually the least valued person in LA. I feel
Mm,
like this may just be my opinion, but like I really feel like at the end of the day, the way the hierarchy is, that it's always all the money goes everywhere else. And then at the end, they go, you're so good. We'd love to have you. We have no money left, but we would love to have your wonderful art form. And you're just like, okay, right? Because you just want something. Uh,
yeah.
yeah, I would say that was definitely one of the struggles. Also, for me personally, I mean, I've had quite an evolution of just how I am socially and with network. I was terrible at it. I quite frankly still am. I'm just no longer scared to ask for anything or help or whatnot. But back then, I was not only scared to do it, but I just had such like I would go and perform and then I'd go home. I did very little socializing. I did very little getting to know anybody, and it was all my own fears and the stuff that goes on in your head.
Yeah.
Um, but that, and then LA is very cliquey as much as people want to talk about it or not talk about it. So, like, if you're coming up with a group of people, something happens in that group, well, you're also affiliated. And there was a lot of that type of stuff, which I don't deal with on a day-to-day basis. Like, I don't like the high school thing. I hated high school. I wasn't in any of the cliques. I was
Yeah.
never social. And I do believe
Okay.
that it is a art form that needs to be social,
Yeah.
at least in LA. And I mean,
Yeah.
I've toured all over the country. It's very different feeling everywhere I've gone, even New York. I think New York is quite community there. Like it feels more
Yeah.
people.
Well, New
Yeah.
York was like there were so many stages. You could do multiple shows in a night because you could easily get around. You didn't have to deal with all the traffic like you did in LA. And there was
Yeah.
just so much more. So it was a great place like for stand up. But I think the social, I think, I would hang out sometimes, but I was also a stand up that liked a nice quality of life. So I had a day job. I
Mm.
wasn't just going to try to live off my stand-up money because I'd be living in a shoebox. So I had to work. And so I think that kind of saved me in the long run because it kind of kept me out of trouble and I'd hang out just late enough, but not too late to get myself into trouble. And I always was like, I'm never shitting where I eat. And that paid off phenomenally because I never
Yes.
wanted to walk into a comedy show and feel awkward.
Yeah.
You
I
know?
dated one comic and I had that rule for a very long time. And I dated one comic who wasn't from LA. So I was like, this is different. This
Yeah.
this'll this'll be different than anyone's ever talked about. And I was just so good about it. And then that one. And then I'm grateful for it because I was like, see, I was right. You never date a comic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, but I think it's like any field you're in. Like if you're an investment banker, like I don't think you should be dating another investment banker.
Well,
But a
then I'm
lot of
glad.
people meet at work.
Yeah, I was going to say then I'm glad I picked comedy so that investment banker is still a possibility.
Yeah, exactly
You know
right.
what
You're
I
like,
mean?
we're going for the top. No,
It's like,
it's yeah.
oh, God.
No, it's so true. It's so true.
Yeah,
So
like
I
I'm going
get
to try and be a homeless person so that all homeless people are off the table to date.
yes,
Yes.
exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
There you go. She's bringing the jokes.
Hmm.
She's bringing the jokes. So I want to segue right in because we're obviously limited on time within this podcast and we could talk for hours. But you talked about the fear you
Hmm.
had. So let's get into that, the fears you had in comedy, because that leads to your new book.
Yeah. I mean, my fears that I had in comedy really like spread my whole life. It didn't, in other words, it wasn't just about comedy. It was my fears were showing up everywhere in my life. And it mainly showed up a lot like you were saying. I don't remember if we were talking before the podcast started or not, but Madison had said that the first or the number one fear, which I thought was public speaking still, or you're saying they're correlated, is actually just what people think. And I had that fear to the nth degree. It was always about me thinking about what everyone else was thinking, like I'm God or nature or universe or whatever you believe in, and that I had this power to know what they were thinking and how I could maneuver and manipulate myself to make sure that I was what they needed and to make
Yeah.
sure that I was like, or to make sure that at least I was accepted or could fit in. And I believe that comes from so many years of, in my younger years, of feeling like I didn't fit in and being ostracized or being left out. And so, especially in LA, you get to navigate all of these insecurities and these fears so well every day because 99% of the people here have them. And so
Yeah.
it's like we're all little tiny monsters just walking around going like, who do you need me to be? And what can you do for me? And can you not do
Yeah.
anything for me? Well, then I'm going to go over here. And it sounds like I'm bad mouthing LA. I don't mean it like that, but to share my fears, I really have to expose the side at least that I was accustomed to or I was seeing because my brain obviously was having those thoughts. So it was just seeing that stuff. You know, had I
Right.
known if I changed my thoughts, I would have changed my environment. I would have done it much sooner. But in those moments, I was still programmed in that old antiquated belief system of I'm in this all by myself and everyone's against me. And yet I want everyone to like me. And I was scared crapless. Can I swear on here, by the way?
Yeah,
Because
of course.
oh, good, because one might come out. I've been trying to be good. Um,
Let
but yeah,
it rip.
right. I've been scared shitless that like my secrets would come out. And basically my secret that I was programmed with very young was I was broken and
Oh.
that I was unfixable. Yeah. And so everything that occurred in my life had to filter through that coffee filter first. And that's
Yeah.
how I navigated my life. And even though it didn't appear as such, I was like white knuckling everything I ever did, every move I made. And I was making some moves and people could look in and go, oh, and they did. She's fine. She's good. Right. Nothing wrong. And then at home, I would just be like miserable and
Yeah.
like shoulda, coulda, woulda. Oh my God, why'd I do this? Rumination, thinking over and over. I was a self-harmer. All these wonderful qualities that you do in the four walls of your home.
Yeah, but here's the thing. You just pretty much explained a comedian.
Correct. Yeah,
You know what I mean?
that's why
So
I
you
did
were
so
in the
well.
right.
Yes, as a comedian, I was like, yay, this is great. Um, yeah, I mean, and you fit in without feeling like you fit in, right? We
Yeah.
all have these scars and these things going on in our head, but most of us are unwilling to speak about it, especially back then. I feel like TikTok and Instagram has helped with people being more vulnerable. You see
Hmm.
all these, videos of people crying and stuff like that.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
so,
that's true.
right? And I think that it's starting to change the evolution of comedy as well, where people are putting some more real stuff on stage, which I love.
Yeah.
Um, and I know that when I started, I did that, and it really was not accepted. Like it was dark and it was not okay. And I quickly shifted, like us comics do, where we're like, oh, that's not working here.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think, and I was very afraid to expose after the few experimentations that I did for about a year where I was doing this comedy, which now that I'm just thinking about it, it's like, oh my goodness. And then went into a much different way, which didn't expose who I was. It was more like Satan's dick and
Yeah.
paranormal shows and things that didn't really, it was how I felt, but it wasn't really about me.
Yeah. No, that
Yeah.
makes sense. But I think is the thing is like, we're all of us are running on this operational program that was set pretty much up until 7 or 8 years old. And so everything's running, as you said, like through a lens of what you believe about yourself. And like it's up to you to change your mindset. But it was interesting because like you hit home a lot on that because when I was doing like heavily, heavily into comedy, I wouldn't take the risk I needed to on stage because I was afraid to fail.
Mm,
I was afraid to be, and here's the biggest thing I realized was that although I wanted to be a famous comedian and successful, I can look back now and realize I was afraid to be seen.
mm,
And that, when you're afraid to be seen, shows up as in surface level conversations, surface level jokes, everything's surface level, trying to make sure that you're putting on a front that everyone said thinks you're okay and you're more or you're better than you actually are. And then
hmm.
sometimes in business you don't want to be too vulnerable because you want to have people take you seriously. And sometimes you got to act the part before you become it. But no,
Yeah.
it's very true. It's like operating on that lens. But yeah, I think that's what it is. I think it's the fear of being seen. And that rolls into so many people today. They stay at jobs that they're not really happy in because they're afraid to be seen in another interview, or they're afraid to take that chance, or they're afraid to bet on themselves, or they won't make a TikTok video, or they won't make a social media post because they are afraid to be seen.
Yeah. They think it needs to be perfect or um,
Yeah.
everything has to line up a certain way. Or like we were saying early, where if you only get a few hundred views, well, then you're a failure. So you're just going to stop doing it. And then it's really just the way you look at something.
It's your
Like,
yeah, it's
go
your
ahead.
perspective. Well,
Hmm.
we should talk about that because we talked about that offline, right? Where we talked about
Hmm.
like I had found out like, we're going to talk about your new book, but I had found out you had written this book because I had seen your TikToks. And you were like, how do I keep getting it out there? And I was like, well, keep making the TikToks because I was missing your Facebook and I was missing your Instagram, but you were doing the TikToks and I would see, and it was like 4 or 5 videos I saw, and I would like try to like all your stuff to help you. And then it was like fourth or fifth video. I'm like, I gotta bring this girl on. Like, I love this topic. This is amazing. Like, she's hit it on the head. She comes from my world. But it's true. It's like you just gotta put yourself out there. But here's the thing. People think it's this whole 200, 300 view jail. That's what we were talking about.
Yes, I want you to, because that was a gem what you shared with me. And I think,
Yeah. So this morning I did a TikTok and it was like a tip Tuesday of the day. And it like I don't know if it was the timing, I don't know if it was whatever it was. Anyways, it only got as of now like 120 something views. And normally people would be like, "Oh, that video flopped, it sucked. It didn't do well, nobody's watching it." But then you think about it and you're like, "Wait a second. That's 120 people. Like we were comedians. 120 people in a show is a great freaking show. 120 people at a party is a great freaking party. 120 people showing up to your book signing is a great freaking book party." And then we forget and we change our perspectives. We're like, 120 people got value this morning that I put out. So your perspective, it shouldn't be, oh, I'm stuck in the two, three. I'm not even in the two, 300 jail. I mean, I'm way below that. But like the two, 300 jail that we look so down upon, it's like That's 200 to 300 people.
Do you know what we
So
have to do? We
it's got
have
to
to
be the
give,
value.
yeah, we have to give value and then fart, and
Yes.
then we'll get more views.
I used to have a farting keychain because I loved
Okay.
to hit it in the
Well,
elevator.
I
I
have
gotta get a new one.
Madison, I have a husband. So on command, whenever I need.
Perfect.
Yes.
Perfect. I
That's what I'm
actually,
going to do.
you should. You know what I got? I didn't do a TikTok video. I got it 2 years ago. So when I was little, my cousin, my brother, and my cousin, who was the same age as my brother. So it was like the three of us. And it was two boys, and they would make me go and get them sodas. Basically, I was their little errand bitch. And I would do whatever they said, all in the return that they would promise me they would get me a farting bear, like a farting teddy bear. It's all I wanted.
I didn't even
They
know that was a
said,
thing.
apparently it wasn't. They just said, we'll get you a farting bear. And as a kid, I was like, that sounds like the coolest thing ever. So I was constantly getting out of the pool to get them sodas, asking grandma for things for them, doing whatever I could, all in hopes of this farting bear. Never got the farting bear. And I
Mm.
never let them forget it. I said, you guys never got me my farting bear. And for my 40th birthday, my brother
Don't.
got me a farting bear.
And you don't have
And
it with you right now?
I left it in Denver, but when I go back to Denver in 2 weeks, I'm gonna like do the video about it. But it was amazing. But my nieces gave helped me unwrap it, and she was dressed in like a nice little dress, and she had a microphone, and like she was a performing bear, and then you pushed her little paw, and she would fart, and my brother was like, "Yeah, it's my fart." Like I bought a recorder and I took it home, made a shit ton of beans, and then like farted, and we kept farting in it so I could get the loudest fart. So it's my fart that's actually in the bear.
Oh, that's so sweet.
Isn't it so cute?
That is so sweet. I mean, it's so much prep. And I mean,
Yeah,
that's love right there. That
I
is.
know.
He could
God,
have taken the first fart, but he didn't. He worked
yes.
really hard. Yeah,
So I finally got my farting bear.
I love
So
that.
there's nothing better than a fart. I'm telling you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Telling you.
You know what I just thought of with all the farting? I don't know if that's what inspired me right now. But and I love your questioning. And in the midst of all of that, I thought I want to add this little nugget to what we were talking about. And that's the stuff about how I was saying how when I looked at LA and comedy, and by the way, it's been a while since I've looked back and tried to explain like my struggles and all of this stuff, is that I talk this way about it because of the headspace that I was in. In other
Yeah.
words, right? Like the people who are probably doing well or whatever would have a completely different view on it. But because of where I was coming from with what I was thinking is what kept perpetuating exactly what I thought.
Well,
And
we attract what we think.
yes, exactly. And so I think with somebody else, they might go, I don't know what they're talking about. I had so much fun or whatever. Actually, I don't know any comic who has fun. But I'm just
They're
kidding.
like, I just want to be famous. But now it's the thing is like when we started, at least we had a little bit more of an art. It's like it's one of those things like timing's weird, right? Like had we started with TikTok, a lot of us might have had a very different path. But we
Mhm.
didn't. We didn't really start. We started with like you would post a picture, you'd post a show. Like you weren't really posting your videos. And then you weren't posting your sets because you're like, that's my good material. I need you to come out and see my material. I don't want to put it all over the internet, right?
Well, and I don't know about you, but I was told by my team, don't put it out there because someone on the other coast is going to take it or someone in Florida, right? Like, and by the way, that
Yeah,
was happening. So,
of
like,
course. Yeah.
yeah. So you were like really close to the chest. I mean, by the way, that was happening in LA. Like people, I remember I did
Isn't that
this show. I
crazy?
don't know how much time we have. I know you're like, we're tight,
Oh
but
no, we're not crunched. If it's
okay,
good
good.
material, we're going on.
Okay. But I remember I was performing at Comedy Store a lot during this time. And on the main stage, I was very excited because I had people that I knew. I didn't invite them, I just knew they were there. Because as comics, you talk and you're like, oh, blah, 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 right?
Yeah.
And so I was coming to the show. I had another show I was playing Haha earlier, which, if you don't know, is it's like 20 minutes. Um, to Comedy Store. So I was racing over to the Comedy Store to do the main stage. And I get on stage, I see these people that I know and just worked with, and I was so excited. And my first joke comes out, and Eleanor in the back looks up, and the whole place goes silent. And I was like, and this thing hits, this joke. My first joke hits. And I was like, oh shit. Like this is something's gone on. Like something happened and I don't know. And I had run in because you park and you go, and I was tight for time. I was already late. So I was like, what's going on? So I went to my next joke and I was like, it's a little weird. Now I'm still getting laughs, but not like normal. And it's a complete sold out show. And I was like, I don't know what's going on here. So I just went left and I was like, I'm going to just do some new material and then I'm going to end all my big stuff. I get off stage and Eleanor comes out to me and she's like, do you know blah, blah, blah? And I was like, kind of like I knew her face, but like I didn't know her very, very much. Well, apparently they were putting up like new comics. And by the way, I was only probably like 5 years in, 7 years in maybe. And they put up new comics and she had done the first 5 minutes of my set.
Oh shit.
Yeah. And
No.
I was like, and Eleanor's like, I knew I heard it before. And she's like, I wasn't in the room. And she's like, oh my God. And then as soon as you said your joke, I looked at the stage and I'm like, that one's Bethany, not the one who said it before. Because you know the comics. I don't know if you know LA comedy clubs because you're in New York, but there's like a hallway, and so you're not really looking at the stage because it's all closed up. There's just a doorway, and like you can kind of hear it, but it's muffled because you're in the hallway. And I was just like, oh my God. And then these people that I work with, in the industry, I remember coming up to them and I was like, hi. And it was just it's like they thought I took this girl. And I was like, and I mean, it was like my heart got ripped out.
God.
Yeah. And it was, the timing of it because of these people, had they seen me on my A game, would have been different. And then trying to explain that this girl that I mean, she was at a lot of my shows. Not just me personally, but I was going up a lot. She was always in the back of the room.
Did you ever talk to her about it?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, I did.
And what'd she say?
She said minimal. Actually, Eleanor did first.
Oh, okay.
Yes. And then Eleanor gave me her number because they booked her obviously. And I said, we need to chat. And she wouldn't come meet me. And I'm not going to like beat her up or anything. I just want to tell her like, this is absolutely a no-no. And now everybody at Comedy Store knows. And I've never seen her since.
She probably disappeared.
She completely disappeared. So, I mean, but it happens.
Yeah, because I mean, there's bits that could be like similar, but they're never like, yeah, that is cool. Oh my God, that's gotta be a huge fear that somebody's gonna like, oh.
Yeah, I think there was a good solid time after that where I almost felt like I had to rewrite everything because it was so I don't know how to describe it on stage because it was something I had never experienced before. I mean, think about it. Have you ever experienced somebody doing your exact jokes right before you go on? And I'm talking like 2 people right before I got on. So it was intense where it was, and I didn't hear any of it because I zoomed in, ran on stage and got off. And I think it changed me a lot. And I did get fear I'll tell you this, I started showing up at shows much sooner. Like I wouldn't double book so close together because I was like, I'm listening to all these bitches. But yeah, I mean, I've had other people do it, just not to that degree where they'll at least change some things. And it's disheartening. It's like a baby. It's like somebody comes and kidnaps your kid or your puppy, like now.
It's just so hard to like come up with, and it's authentic, and it's, but I think a lot of comics, like they are I think the scaredest people on the planet.
Mm-hmm.
But we mask it behind humor.
Yeah.
So I want to get into your book.
Yeah. I'll say one more thing right before, because I want to ask you, because you're kind of in the same boat. Do you feel like the healthier you get, the less you want to do stand-up?
I'm doing like trying to do more speaking
Yeah.
now. And so it's funny, the law of detachment, which I know you're familiar with,
Mhm.
is so real. And it has shown up more in my life this year than any other time in my life because I think I was so attached to different things and trying to control it. And all of a sudden, I was detached from stand up. I loved it, but I didn't need to do it.
Mhm.
And then I just started getting booked. And then my
Oh,
shows started going extremely well because
yeah.
when I get up there, I'm present, I am having fun, and I don't give a fuck.
Hmm.
And the shows are going better than they've ever gone before. And I'm
Nice.
like, holy shit.
It's because you don't give a shit anymore.
That's the secret sauce to life.
Yeah.
When you detach, but not giving a shit in a healthy way. I was showing up
Right.
with my jokes, but I was showing up knowing that people spent money to be there, chose out of their precious time in their life, because their time is valuable too, to come and hear this performance. I'm going to do the best I can. So I cared enough that way,
Yeah.
but I didn't care that I was in my own head.
Hmm.
And that is what has made all the difference. So do I want to like go and wait around at 10:30 for a set on a Sunday night? Fuck no.
That's what I'm talking about, like the
That
hustle
I'm
of it.
done with. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't need this shit. But I do love it because there is part of me that's still like a dirty minded little tomboy.
Yeah.
And that will never change. And I don't ever want to change that because I feel that that makes me who I am and unique. But the stand up, being a comedian, at least having that skill set gives me an excuse to still act like that. You
Yeah.
know what I mean?
Oh, it'll
You
never,
probably-
yes, it'll never go away. I will always be a stand-up. I am a
Yeah.
stand-up. I
Yeah.
still do stand-up. Yeah, what I mean, I think you said it more succinctly is like, I just don't need to do I don't need to prove it to anyone else. Now, if it shows itself, I'm there. And I just kind of thought of it, but I'm more like a transformedian. Like I like, cause even my bits are kind of evolving in a way,
I
where
like that.
yeah, where I like I'm still a comedian, always will be, but I also want to have little drops of nuggets that could potentially not only let you leave feeling lighter because you're laughing, but also maybe
Yeah.
a little nugget of some truth there that you're like, oh, that's interesting.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
I think it's completely true. Because you want them to laugh, but you also want to like add value,
Yeah.
you
And
know?
I'm gonna stop doing, let's just get to the book because I keep it's my book and I keep saying like, oh, one more thing. No, we'll just get to the
Well,
book.
yeah, and before you get into that book, I want to say something because you nailed it on the head, and I want people to know, no matter how far you go in your development journey, you're still a human being. So even though you become a master at law of detachment or law of attraction, a law of attraction or whatever it is, you still are human, so you're going to naturally have that. So Bethany has become an expert about releasing fears and breaking free from fear, which is the name of her book. But she still, as she noticed, because you become very self-aware, has been deflecting talking about the book because this is a new space for you.
Yeah.
But you've mastered the fear. So be seen, girl. Let's
Yeah.
bring it up. Let's bring that
Well,
cover
here's
up.
the book.
Go
Take
to our
that out.
YouTube if you want to see the cover, but make sure you go to Amazon. It's called Break Free from Fear by Bethany Dwyer. 8 steps to unlock your innate superpowers. Fear is the
Yes.
number one thing that will hold you back. Get into this book. What was the breaking point for you that said, I need to write this book?
You know, it's interesting, and a lot of people don't know this, but for the last 10 years, I've been coaching in rehab facilities, mental health facilities, and dual
Wow.
diagnosis. Yeah. And the way I got into that was my loved one, who's in the other room, my husband, was struggling with addiction, and he found himself in a rehab. And I would visit him. This was in our first year or so of dating, year and a half or so. And one day he signed me up. They had like a family day, and he signed me up for a talent show. And yeah, and I'm like, oh, great. What I do for a living is just your talent show. Wonderful.
Yeah.
And I did it. And by the way, the preface was you can't swear because there was kids there. And I was like, there's no way. I'm an improv comic. There's no way you're going to make me have to close off one part of my brain and think that I can do comedy. It's just not the way my brain works. So they were like chanting, like, let her do it, let her swear. And so as soon as they said, let her swear, I don't even think I did swear, but it was just the idea of knowing that I would be limited. Anyways, I did it. Afterwards, I had so many of their clients coming up to me and being like, oh my God, can you show me how? How do you have the balls to do that? Oh my goodness, this is so cool. And so I went up to the person who runs the rehab center and I said, I can come in here and coach these guys for free for a day, a group a week if you
Yeah.
want. And we can get them in their voices and find their confidence and get them moving on this. I'm like, how exciting for them. And sure enough, they took it on and I was like, okay. And then I started, and then after about 3 months, they started talking to other rehab centers. And within 3 months, I was working at like all of these rehab centers. And I remember I told my husband, I was like, he was my husband at the time, but I was like, I don't have time for that. Like I'm doing completely other, I have another job. Like this is, I
Yeah.
love being of service, but at some point it's like, how much can I do? And
Yeah.
then California changed their laws and all this stuff, and you had to get insurance and all this stuff. So I ended up doing all the necessary things I needed to do this 1 or 2 days a week. And I have been for now 10 years. And I developed a program. I developed more than one program, but this is the first program that I wrote a book about. But the first program that I developed was called Comedy Heals. And it's this program that through comedy, I coach 12-step program plus all the necessities I think that you need, and which this one was born. So Break Free
Yeah.
came from that first initial program that I developed. And I noticed how everything that kept these people from doing what their God-given greatness was fear. And
Yeah.
there's such a myriad of fears. It's like you can't always pinpoint it. Like you want to say, oh, fear of abandonment or fear of what people think, but they're also enmeshed that one becomes 10. And it
Yeah.
really is the unraveling of it that will help. You can't just go after um, one and you're done. It's like when you uncover one, you're like, oh, and then look at that. Where did that
Yeah.
pile of laundry come from, right? So,
Yeah.
anyways, that was the development of it. And through these years of coaching all of these clients, like thousands and thousands of clients, um, over the years, they're always like, you need to write a book. You
Yeah.
have to you have to give this to other people. And I was like, no, 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 no. I do this one-on-one or in a group where because I always thought it had to be personal. Like I had to, hear their story and help them through it. And I will say that was the toughest part about writing this book, was to figure out how to write it in a way where if anybody reads it, they can insert their fear and it work. So
Yeah.
most of the times I coach people for, I have all different clients, private clients, not just the ones from the rehab centers. And I've been coaching them for years and I do it all. They don't even know I'm going through the steps with them because it is 8 steps. And we conquer it at the end.
Yeah.
So it was an interesting journey of trying to make it so general that it would affect everyone, but also keeping it specific enough so it worked.
That's amazing. So in it's an 8-step process to get over fears, but it can relate to all the different fears.
Yeah, I mean and like I said, sometimes we go in thinking it's one thing and it ends up being another, and you get that through the steps. You'll start unraveling things where you're like, I think I identified it as this and I'm finding out it's this.
Do you know that a lot of people, another huge fear is fear of success?
Oh yeah. And fear. I had fear
And
of
they
success
don't real they
and
realize
failure.
that.
Yeah,
I think
exactly.
I did too.
Yeah.
Because it was like I didn't want to like fail and be like a loser, but I also was afraid if I got so successful, then people would come after me. This
Mm-hmm.
was like 10 years ago, and I lived in this prison in
Yeah.
my mind. And finally I was like, talk to somebody, and I'm like, it's not fear of failure. You're you're scared of being too big. So instead, you play it small,
Mm-hmm.
thinking you're not getting any opportunities, but really it's all your own fault.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
And that's why people don't start the company. They stay at the job that they hate. they stay in the relationship they hate. But God, oh my God, you would have a field day. If you could meet me 10 years ago, I mean, you pretty much did, but I masked it pretty well that festival we were at. But my God, I think I had like fear of success, fear of failure, fear of intimacy for sure. Because I was like, I don't want to get my heart broken again. I'm just going to shut this shit down. Like every fear was running. I had a fear of what people thought, right? So which is why the jokes were so surface level. It wasn't
Mm.
like diving into all the stuff. So let's talk about some of the 8 steps that we can. That if people are listening to this right now and they're like, yeah, I'm human. I have a lot of fears. What are some things they can do now to start unraveling those fears besides buying your book?
Yeah, well,
Number
that's
one,
a
step
number
one.
one. Yes. Well, the first step is I say name it. So we remember when I said about identifying it, because a lot of us feel fear and know we're fearful, but we don't really stop to process and to identify the fears.
Yeah.
And by the way, not all of us will be able to. Like I said, one will say one thing and it could mean a myriad of other fears under their umbrella. But what we're trying to do is just get, I say we, I keep saying we as if it's me in the book. It's
I
just
love it.
me, but now somehow it's connected to my hip. Um,
Yeah.
but it's really about just taking a second and looking inside and going, okay, I might have a list here. And what we not wait, what the book does is helps you list it out and prioritize. What do we want to start with first? And I always say, don't start with the Achilles heel first because it's going to feel like an amputation. We start with something, media in the middle.
Yeah.
And the second step is, I say the first time I call it losing your virginity. Because again, we don't often think about the first time we've had this fear. And it's
Yeah.
really important as you go through the steps on why we identify the first time we believe we've had this fear. And it helps kind of go ahead.
No, I'm just flabbergasted because you think about that. Yeah. Like the first time you had the fear.
Yeah.
That's
And so
wild.
when we find the first time, it's like the flag in the ground.
Yeah.
And what I like about this and how I describe it when I'm working one-on-one with somebody is we bring up the first time and then I say, well, look at how much time we've had before that. In other words, from birth to 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, however long it was. I mean, some people get a new fear when they're 10 or 15 or 35. You know what I mean? It's like you don't know but how long you didn't have it. And the reason I want people to notice that is that this is not who you are. You got it at a certain point, and it isn't something that you are destined to have the rest of your life. It's something you learned, were programmed, or projected on. And then what happens is then the step goes backwards a little bit to the third step. And that's when we find your influencers. So who influenced this fear? In other words, who taught you? And the one example I give in the
Wow.
book, yeah, the one example I give you in the book is if I were born a Viking, I wouldn't have any fear because of the way that they are in their community. There is no fear. We do not instill a fear. If I was born into a clan of ninjas, I'm not going to have any fears because it's not projected onto me. I cannot learn it from someone else if they don't have the fear. And there's no program happening of fear, which, by the way, if you are a part of this society, I'm doing this because there's a window. If you are a
Yeah.
part of society, which we all are, you are programmed whether you want to believe it or not. You have been indoctrinated. You have been injected all the fears, all the seeds, I call them the parasites. And when you have a parasite, you are the host, and it is feeding off of all of the things that you get from having the fear: insecurity, feeling inferior, isolation, all of these things that we do that cause the negative feeling, self-doubt, self-beat,
Yeah.
self-harm, addiction, all of these things that come from fears. And the parasites just gobble it up. And sooner or later,
Yeah.
you're just a flesh suit and the fear is controlling your entire life, which means you're doing nothing
Oh my
because
God.
it
So
scares you.
true. And you know
Yeah.
what's so sad is that so many people just thought because they didn't have the help, were like, this is who I am.
Yep.
This is my destiny. This is how I have to live. And then they got to their deathbed and they're like, I wish I wasn't so scared. I wish I
Yeah.
had, done what I want, not lived for other people. And yeah, it's sad, but I'm glad that in this day and age we have people like you that can help us identify those things so we can move past those fears. And I always say, like, I feel like the biggest way to get over a fear is to actually move through it,
Mm.
right? So, fear of rejection is one that a lot of people have. We don't really have it because we get rejected all the time in the art
Right.
business, right? So, we're like, oh, that's just another day.
Bring it on. I can't
Yeah,
wait to say no.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. But
Great.
I think like, it's like aim. I tell people, there's different. I'm not afraid to get rejected in business, maybe because I'm so freaking used to it in the past. Like, but I'm afraid to get rejected in my love life, right? Because
Mhm.
it's not as familiar, because I don't take the chances. And I'm like, I need to do this exercise myself where I go and I ask five attractive men for their number. And what I'm wanting is for them to say no because I'm working through this exercise. I don't really want them to say yes. So, and just working through that to where it's like, you're too old for me. I'm married, or no, or yes. I mean, a lot of them might say yes, you just don't know.
Yeah.
But
I
I
don't know if
feel
you
that we're
have,
afraid.
yeah, and I don't know, do you have a higher power? You do, because I
Yeah,
see a
yeah, go
cross
on.
around
Yeah,
your
yeah.
neck. Great,
Yeah.
great. Okay. So, like, when you have a higher power, nature, God, universe, whatever it is that you believe, and you have that in your life, and you begin to give up the
Yeah.
you, the ego, the your will, and you allow the will of your higher power, what happens
Yeah.
is you then can go through life and go, when I'm rejected, it is my protection. I coach this all the time. Your higher power is seeing everything. I'll call him God because that's what I call him. And
Okay.
then, but if you have a problem with God out there, anybody, you can think of Ghost of Dead if you want. It helps.
Yeah.
Um, but your higher power sees everything. So if you're like this ant over here and there's a piece of cheese over here, and you're about to march over, but this march takes 3-4 days, you could stop and go, I don't feel like being in this lineup anymore. I want to go veer off. I feel like we're not going to find it. Right. We get into the wheel of, I don't feel good about this. I don't like myself. I don't like myself as an ant, right? Or all these things. And God's looking, going, hey, buddy, if you just keep doing the best you can, you're going to get to the cheese, the promised
Yeah.
land cheese. And that ant, all the ant needs to do is keep being an ant the best he can. And he's going
Hmm.
to make it to the cheese. We just think it's supposed to happen right away. And it's
Yes.
not. It's that journey that helps us to become what we need to become to lift the fucking cheese, because that cheese is going to be 4 times the size of the little ant. And he wouldn't have made it if he didn't take the trek. He needed to get his steps in or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
But we got to think of like the whole picture, because we're
Yeah.
often very impatient and we want what we want now. But if
Of
we start
course.
thinking, yeah, and if we start thinking about all these things when someone says no to us, or we don't get the job or whatever, as our protection, their rejection is our
It's
protection,
true.
all of a sudden it all makes sense. And you're like, what a gift. Thank you for not wasting my time. They like
Yeah.
for you to date like 5 guys because they're all saying yes to you. I hope some say no, because some of it's going to be a waste of time. And you're
Yeah.
like, I
I
wish
know.
I didn't take, 5 hours or whatever of those 5 dates to get ready. I wish I, only got ready for the 1 hour of one date or whatever, you know?
Yeah, no, it's true. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's the thing too. It's like that's, how I feel about most things. Because you look back and I remember, and I think everyone has this point in their life where they were so bummed out that something didn't work out. Whether it was a relationship or a job or even an apartment they wanted or a house they wanted. And then you look back and you're like, thank God
Yep.
it happened the way it does. So it feels like so devastating in the moment. But yeah, when you start realizing, that's why I love that quote, life is not happening to you, it's
Hmm.
happening for you.
For you.
And to
Yeah.
let go of that control and like surrender. And I think that's part of like your whole book thing on the fear is like if you surrender and you trust and you have faith, the less fear will control you. Because fear and faith are very intertwined, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's like
There's
the
a
complete
surrender to it.
opposite. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And I know that I talk very much about your higher power and finding that. And then even for my atheists, I have a whole way of you guys trying to figure out how you can do the steps through another process of it. So even
Yeah.
if it isn't your jam or you don't have a higher power, there is a way to still do the steps and connect to it.
Yeah. And it just made me think of like when you were talking about the ant and the cheese. Like, have you ever seen those analogies where like they zoom out of the earth, right? And it's like, and then you're in the galaxy, and then it's like this like little pin you can't even see. It's like you were here.
Hmm.
You were, and like you realize how irrelevant everything kind of is. And that like, what are we scared of? There's actually nothing to be scared of
You know what's
because we're
interesting?
just so small and we're here for such a blip of time.
Yeah, I actually think a little bit different in that because I'm so connected to God and I'm so connected to higher power, is that I feel like Him working through me.
Yeah,
It's not me. So the stuff that's coming through me matters. And it because I've let myself go. Because
I
my
love
first
that.
5, 10 years of stand-up, it was me on stage trying to make things work. And that's why it was so hard and getting through these
Yes,
fears and all of this
nailed
force.
it. Yeah.
Yeah. And then now it's like I'm just going to allow myself to be open and be a vessel for him to work through. And I'm telling you, Madison, most of the time I don't know how I have the answers, or I honestly don't know how this what like I'm going to be really I have no idea how this got written and how I developed a fucking program, and it's only one of many. Like honestly,
It's amazing.
yeah, because you we met 10 years, well, I was still on the I started the journey then. But if you
Yeah.
had met me more than 10 years ago, before 2015, I would have been like, write a self-help book. Are you fucking kidding me? Like
I
that
know.
that
I would
would
have been the
not
same
be.
way
Yes, I'm like, are you no way that's not what I'm going to be doing.
too.
So
Write a
and then
self-help book.
yeah, and then helping people like
Yeah.
what? I'm a comic. I'm a me comic.
Yeah.
And the evolution, what's really helped me is the spiritual awakening part, is what I think transformed me and allowed this stuff to come through and help
Yeah.
people.
I
And
love
that's,
that.
yeah, that's been, I
That
would
is
say,
a
number one.
I think that's such a great thing to end on is like you detached and you surrendered and you stepped into your faith and then because that's what we're all supposed to be is really vehicles for God, right? We're here to like grow, learn lessons, evolve our souls, and then we go home, right? This is not where we're supposed to be. We're just here like at soul school, is like what a lot of
Yeah,
people call it.
but that's it. And I think with what you were saying about being a blip, I think just in my opinion, so much of how we maneuver and navigate the world is thinking that we don't matter. But I think if what you add to the world is an
Ah,
addition, that
yeah,
you can matter more than you know. And it is in the thinking that we don't matter that we do less. And I think if you
that's a
understand
good
that if you do
point.
your best and you become a vessel and you find your purpose, that all of us, if we made the electricity when the sperm hit the egg, which we all do,
Yeah,
we already got picked. We already have the
yeah,
electricity, the light inside of us. And then it's just, what do we do with it? Well, that's our God given greatness that we need to find. And the only way we can find that is to remove the fear and just be authentically ourselves.
well, I'm not going to say anything after that because that was the most beautiful ending to a podcast I think I've ever had in almost 6 years. So,
Holy crap, I got to go back and listen to it
standing
then.
ovation, right? I was like, I'm not even touching. Like that was so magically said. Rewind it, everybody, and play that back again because that was so. You just and it almost felt like honestly when you were talking, it was just so well. It's like it wasn't you talking. It
It
was
was
almost like
not me.
the
Madison,
higher
that's
power.
what I'm
That's where I
telling you.
felt it came through. I was like, whoa.
Yeah,
That was
it's
amazing.
that's what I'm saying. When you were like, that was epic, I was like, thank God, because oh
I was
God, I
like,
have
I'm
to
not even
rewind
saying
it.
anything. Like I'm not. No, this it ends on that. Like that was amazing.
Well, then
Bravo,
I'm done. I guess
bravo.
I
Okay,
mean,
so tell us where they can find you, follow you, buy your book, all that good stuff.
Yeah, so you can get Break Free from Fear, 8 Steps to Unlock Your Innate Superpowers on Amazon right now. That's the only place, or you can get it from me personally, but that would be harder. So definitely go to Amazon, and you can just either type in Bethany Dwyer, and my name is something else, the Dwyer. It's the bane of my existence, that last name. Like putting W and Y together is just epiphonic for people. So anyways, that you can get on Amazon. You can get me on Instagram at Bethany Dwyer. You can get me on TikTok. It's Bethany Dwyer, and you'll find a lot of my stand-up, and I do a lot of conspiracy stuff and a lot of God stuff.
I love it.
And I have a band called Haunted Air, which is another bane of my existence. Why we went with the word air, like royalty, but it's H-E-I-R. But yeah, mostly everything, YouTube, everything. It's my name. It's just Bethany Dwyer. Yeah.
Yeah, you guys check her out. She is a jack of all trades, comedian, musician, and now author. So I'm so happy that you joined me on my show. Thank you so much. And congrats on your book.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
I love it. I'm so
Yes.
proud of you.
Thank you. You too. I heard about your book and I can't wait to read it.
Thank you. Thank you. Mine was a little less appropriate, but the next one's going to be very appropriate.
Oh, don't get it twisted. I'm still me in this book.
No, I know. Okay, good. I can't wait to read it.
It's still comedy in it.
Yeah. Okay, good. So you guys go get Break Free from Fear on Amazon. Check out Bethany Dwyer. And we will see you next time to find out who's next. Hey, your host here, Madison Malloy. Please make sure to subscribe to the show on all podcast platforms, and please rate and review us on iTunes and Spotify. Also, if you have any questions or comments, you can email us at contact@nexttomadison.com. I thank you again for listening. Bye.